Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humanoids of all descriptions, welcome to the channel. I'm Cap. This is my place where liking, sharing, and subscribing will make your hair grow back. Look, I can't back that nonsense up, but it sounded good in my otherwise empty head. Today, we're in the kitchen again. And we're going to make chicken cacciatore, or at least my version of it. It may sound fancy or difficult, but if you follow my instructions, it's not. As always, it's an instructional video for those of you who find yourself unprepared to fend for yourself in the kitchen. And we're going to start, as we always do, with necessary equipment and anything that's nice to have. So, we need 2 pots. A wide flat one, and a smaller one that's a little bit deeper. We again need a cutting board. We need a knife. As usual, my grandmother's favorite tool for disciplining children, a wooden spoon. We need a serving spoon. Because I live alone, I'm making dinner for the week. So we need storage devices. If you live with other people, you don't need as much storage, or you may need none. Anytime I work with raw meat of any sort, I like to use nitrile gloves. I'm going to show you an old mechanic's trick that's going to help you out with clean hand, dirty hand. And, as always, on the nice to have list, this is a garlic press. They don't cost much. Running your garlic through the press changes the flavor. It makes it much more intense because this crushes the garlic and as the name implies, presses it. I'm going to try and get a little focus here through those holes. When you do that, it breaks open all the cells in the garlic and it causes a much more intense flavor without having to add more garlic. The only downside to a garlic press is having to clean each and every one of those little holes. So, as I always do, I'm going to shut the camera off. I'm going to clear this stuff away and bring out the ingredients. And we're back. So these are the ingredients we need for the chicken cacciatore. Obviously, we need chicken. In this case, we're using 6 boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Olive oil. We have 2 sweet peppers. We have an onion. Again, the amount of garlic you put in is negotiable. I like garlic. We're aiming for about 6 servings here. So I'm using more vegetable and more garlic. We're using some black pepper. Your negotiable item for this recipe is a can of mushrooms. If you're not sure if you like mushrooms, don't be afraid of it. They're going to just bulk up what you've got in the pot, and they're going to add a little bit of earthy background flavor. Give them a try. Again, mushrooms are negotiable. It's all going to go together in that large flat pot. Rice. Rice will go in the small pot and will be added along with probably about half of this jar of spaghetti sauce. Let's get started. Okay, here we are. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut up our vegetables. With a nice sharp knife, you'll notice I always emphasize the fact that the knife needs to be sharp. A sharp knife is a safe knife. They're less likely to slip so you're less likely to get cut. If you do cut yourself somehow, your body will clot that up a lot easier. We're going to take these peppers, we cut up the onion, each half into about sixths. We're going to get these peppers opened up. We're going to get rid of the seeds and this white part, which is called pith. We're going to slice these up. About like this. You're going to keep the tips of your fingers away from the blade. Once the peppers are cut up, I'm going to go over to the sink with that can of mushrooms. The mushrooms are in a kind of a brine. We don't need it. So I'm going to pour that down the sink. Garlic, similar. We're just going to roughly cut it up. If you want smaller pieces, that's fine. Don't let yourself get too anxious about the size of the pieces of the vegetables. We're going to put this aside. I'm going to glove up and we're going to deal with the chicken. We'll be right back. All right, here we are with our 6 chicken thighs taken out of the package. The next thing we're going to do is optional. Some people leave the chicken thighs whole. I like to cut them up because I know I'm going to store them for the week. When I cut them up, I like to make them into bite-sized pieces. This is all going to go together in the pot with the olive oil. And this all goes fairly quickly. Again, cutting up the thighs is optional. Now, I like to wear the gloves. The gloves are for my protection. If for some reason the knife slips, a good thick nitrile glove will offer you some protection from getting stuck by your knife. I've done it before. Thin gloves like are issued in hospitals aren't really going to do it. But this is a 9 or even a 10 mil glove. It's not an excuse to be sloppy. And again, a sharp knife is much less likely to slip, but it happens. And depending on how much veg you use and how much rice you put in your secondary pot, this is going to yield you anywhere from 5 to 7 servings. I'm going for 6 today. If we end up with more than that, that's good because one of them will be my dinner. Now, mechanics trick. This is a nitrile glove over another nitrile glove. Is it absolutely necessary today? No, but in some cases, it will be. So, now I've got another clean hand. olive oil. We're going to move here in 3, 2, 1. We're going to pour enough olive oil in here, just like with the spaghetti sauce video, just enough to cover the bottom of the pot so that nothing is in contact with the bottom of a dry pot. We're going to turn the heat on to high, and we're going to let it sit until we see the surface of the oil begin to ripple. And we'll move the pot back and forth like this and watch the thickness of the oil change. When it gets good and hot, that's how we know the oil is ready for the chicken. Okay, the oil's been on for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half. And as you can see, the oil is nowhere near as thick as it was when we poured it in. And olive oil is not very thick to begin with. Now, gently start laying your chicken into the hot oil. Don't throw it in and spatter oil every place. It will burn you. And that's one of the reasons to wear gloves. It'll keep that hot oil off of your skin if it starts to spatter at this point. Now, our vegetables don't go in yet. We're going to pour them back out onto the cutting board. Because we need our lid. Once the chicken has turned gray on all sides, that's when we know we're ready to throw in our vegetables. All right, at this point the chicken has been in the hot on high for about 2.5 minutes, and you can see it's begun to change color. When it reaches a uniform exterior color, it doesn't mean that it's reached a safe internal temperature, but it does mean that we're going to be ready to throw in the vegetables. So we're probably going to have to stir it up one more time before that happens. All right, we've reached a fairly uniform color with our bits of chicken. So right about now is when we're going to do two things. I'm going to add my vegetables, not the mushrooms, to the chicken, and you'll notice that on the left side of the stove top, there's a pot of water. It's time to get our rice started. That pot's got about 2 cups of water in it. We're going to cover this up. The heat's still high. We'll be lowering the temperature pretty soon. We're going to put a nice pile of rice in here. A little leftover rice is never really a bad thing. Give that a stir. Break the surface tension. Get the majority of the air out of the rice and the rice under the water. And we're going to put the top on the pot. If you read directions for making rice, one of the things that you're going to see is it's going to tell you to bring the water to a boil first. Well, the water's going to boil with or without the rice in it. So frankly, I don't worry about whether or not the water's boiling when I add the rice to the water. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. All right. The water with the rice in it has begun to boil. We're going to turn it all the way down. And we're going to stir it up. We make sure that nothing sticks to the bottom of the pot. We're going to come over here. And here, as you can see, the vegetables are softening up. The onions are beginning to be a little bit translucent. For those of you who slept through class, that means you can kind of sort of see through them. At this point, in goes our can of mushrooms. Again, if you're not sure about the mushrooms, use a smaller can, give them a try. As you stir this up, go slowly so you don't go flinging vegetables every place. There's plenty of liquid in here from the olive oil, from the juice, from the chicken, and of course, it's been sweating out of the peppers. We're going to turn that down from high to low, and we're going to cover it mostly back up. We're going to let some of that liquid boil off. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to move that rice back to the small burner and just keep it simmering. We'll be back when I do that. Alright, we're back. As you can see, the great big pile of chicken and vegetables is cooked way down, although there's still plenty of liquid in the bottom of the pot. The rice is getting close to being done. We've still got some liquid to cook off here. And you'll notice over in this corner here, there's a pot. That pot contains spaghetti sauce. So that sauce is going to go in with the chicken and the vegetables. Once we do that, we'll stir it up for a minute or two, and then we'll start to put this in storage and on a plate for my dinner tonight. I like to use these Pyrex. They're really good in the fridge, and they keep your food mostly out of contact with the kind of plastics that are unhealthy. So again, we'll be back in a few minutes. All right, so we're back for the final time. We've cooked down the vast majority of the water here in the rice. I'm going to shut the heat off. Now, I'm going to take the remains of that pot of sauce we made in the last video. I'm going to put that in here. It's clearly not enough, but we don't want it to go to waste. This is the point where we're going to open up a jar of our sauce. This part of the lid can be very sharp. So the way we're going to open it, we're going to take our spoon underneath the edge of it, and we're going to give it a push. You can hear it open up. We're going to stir this up a final time. And it's time to plate this up and put it in storage. There we go. Again, we're going to get anywhere from 5 to 7 servings out of something like this. I've done my cooking now, my dinners, for the week. One of the things you're going to find, the more experience you have in the kitchen, is that it takes just as much cleanup if you cook for one day as it does if you cook for the week. So go ahead and make yourself dinner for the week. And put it in the fridge and it'll keep fine. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.